The woman in the red raincoat. The city was broken. Old cars stood like skeletons in the streets. Buildings leaned sideways, their glass windows long shattered. Cold wind moved through the empty roads. It carried the smell of smoke, rot, and something worse, something dead. Emma walked slowly. She wore a red raincoat that was too big for her small body. It had holes in the sleeves and dark stains on the front. Her boots made soft crunching sounds as she stepped on broken glass. Her brown eyes kept moving, always watching, always scared. She had not seen another living person in 4 days. In her hand she held a rusted metal pipe. It wasn't much, but it helped her feel safe. Hanging from her shoulder was a dirty backpack. Inside were 2 cans of beans, 1 bottle of water, and an old radio with half-dead batteries. Emma was thin. Her face looked pale under the dirty hood. Her hair stuck to her cheeks. She hadn't eaten a real meal in weeks, but she had survived. That was what mattered now. This was the apocalypse, and Emma was alone. She entered an old market building. The glass doors were gone. Inside, it was dark and quiet. She stepped carefully between fallen shelves and smashed food boxes. Suddenly, she stopped. A faint growl echoed from the back of the store. Her heart jumped. She knew that sound. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't a human. It was one of them. A zombie. She backed away slowly, ready to run. But then she saw it. 4 figures came into view. Thin, twisted, with gray, cracked skin. Their mouths hung open, full of sharp, bloody teeth. Their eyes were pale white. They moved slowly at first, then faster when they smelled her. Emma turned and ran. She ran through the aisles, knocking over cans and broken wood. Her boots slipped on old milk and trash. The zombies followed behind her, moaning louder. They were hungry. She turned left, then stopped. Another zombie stood there, but this one didn't move like the others. Its body was thinner, almost falling apart. 1 leg dragged. Its jaw looked broken and its ribs showed through the skin. It made a strange sound like a weak grunt and raised 1 arm. Emma screamed. But then something strange happened. The zombie didn't attack her. Instead, it stepped in front of her, then growled at the others. The 3 chasing her paused. Then they snarled and lunged at the lone zombie. A fight broke out. The strange zombie attacked them with surprising rage. It pushed one into a shelf, grabbed another by the throat and bit down. Emma froze. She didn't understand. Why was one zombie attacking the others? Why didn't it bite her? Emma ran outside. She hid behind a burnt truck and watched through a broken window. The fight ended in minutes. The strange zombie stood there, covered in black blood. The other zombies lay still, unmoving. And then it looked at her. Not with dead eyes, with tired ones. It didn't chase her. It didn't growl. It just looked at her, and then sat down, like a wounded dog. Emma didn't move for a long time. When the sun began to fall, she slowly stood up and walked away, thinking the strange zombie would stay behind, but she was wrong. After walking 3 streets away, she turned around and saw it. The zombie was following her. Not fast, just following. That night, Emma slept in a cold cafe under a pile of chairs. She placed a chair against the door to keep it closed. The strange zombie stood outside the glass wall, staring in. It didn't try to break the glass. It didn't walk away either. It just stood there, watching her. In the morning, Emma opened the door. The zombie didn't move. She threw a piece of old bread on the ground. It didn't touch it. She said, "What do you want?" Of course, it didn't answer. But when she started walking again, it followed. Emma didn't understand what was happening. Zombies were monsters. They ate people. They didn't protect them. But this one had saved her life. Was it just broken, or was something else inside it? She gave it a name. Daniel. She didn't know why. The name just felt right. And from that moment, her journey changed. She was no longer alone in the ruins of the world. Rain fell softly as Emma sat inside the hollow cafe, watching the strange zombie through the dirty glass. It stood motionless, in the rain like a stone statue with skin peeling off. The red glow of sunset made its figure look even more unreal, but it hadn't moved all night. It hadn't tried to break in. And most strange of all, it hadn't tried to eat her. Emma didn't sleep. She stared at the thing for hours, pipe in hand, heart pounding. Was it a trick? Was the virus inside it broken? Or was it dying, too weak to bite? But at sunrise, it was still there, standing, watching. When Emma finally opened the cafe door, her hands shook. Her eyes never left the creature. It didn't jump at her. It didn't groan. It just tilted its head. She tossed a piece of stale bread toward it. The zombie didn't even sniff it. Emma frowned. "You're not like the others," she whispered. The creature gave no answer. But when she turned and walked down the empty road, it followed. For 3 days it walked behind her like a shadow. Other zombies came from time to time, snarling, howling, charging toward her like wild animals. Each time the strange zombie stepped between them and her. It fought like a cornered beast but never touched her. Emma began to realize something important. This zombie was protecting her. By the third night, Emma allowed it to sit beside her. Fire. She didn't have much wood, just broken chair legs and wet boxes. The fire smoked more than it burned, but she stayed warm. She glanced at the zombie, at Daniel, the name she had given it. He sat with legs stretched out, arms loose at his sides, head down, like a man who had fought too many battles. His breathing was slow and heavy. Zombies weren't supposed to breathe. She noticed something else strange. His eyes, once dull and white, now had specks of green in them, faint but real. Emma stared. "Can you understand me?" Daniel didn't move. She leaned closer and said, "Why did you help me? Why didn't you eat me?" Still no answer. But then, he turned his head toward her, not fast, slowly, gently, and he let out a low grunt, a sound not like pain, but like effort. Emma's heart raced. This wasn't normal. Later that night, while looking for shelter, Emma climbed into an abandoned school. Broken lockers lined the halls. She pushed open a classroom door and found a half-rotten couch. She curled up on it, too tired to care about the smell. Daniel waited by the door. "Just before sleep," she whispered. "You used to be someone, didn't you?" She paused. "I think you still are." The next morning, something woke her. Not noise, not danger. Warmth. Sunlight poured through a broken window. And Daniel, he was blocking the door, not standing outside, but inside the classroom. Emma jumped up. "No!" But he didn't move. He just growled, low and warning. Behind her, she heard footsteps. 3 armed survivors had crept into the hallway. Men. One smiled when he saw her. Well, a live one. The second aimed a pipe at her. "Hand over your bag." Emma backed up, but Daniel growled louder. The men paused. "What's that?" one said. "Is that a zombie?" Daniel took 1 step forward. The men laughed, until Daniel charged. He didn't walk like the slow undead now. He moved like fire, arms swinging, mouth wide, slamming into the men with brutal strength. Screams filled the hallway. Emma watched in horror as Daniel threw one attacker through a door and bit another's leg. But he didn't go for the kill, just enough to drive them off. The third man ran. Daniel stood in the broken doorway, chest rising and falling. Black blood covered his hands. He looked at Emma, not hungry, not mindless, just tired. Emma fell to her knees, not because she was afraid, because she knew now. This zombie was not like the others. Something inside it, someone, was still fighting, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to save him. The world had ended long ago, but Emma had never felt so confused by hope. She walked beside the zombie now, not far behind, not running away. Beside it, she didn't speak much. The road ahead was too quiet, and her heart was too heavy. But sometimes, she looked at it and sometimes it looked back, not with the empty eyes of the dead, with eyes that remembered. That evening, the two found a ruined post office. The walls were cracked and the mail was scattered across the floor like dry leaves. Emma cleared a corner, dropped her pack, and lit a small fire with torn paper. Daniel stood by the door, silent as always, but something about this night felt different. While rummaging through an old locker for food or cloth, Emma found a small plastic card hidden beneath a broken package. It was an ID badge. Daniel Reeve, virologist, Titan Gene Labs. She froze. The picture on the card showed a young man in a white coat with green eyes and a crooked smile. She looked up slowly. The zombie stared at the flames. Same eyes, same shape of jaw. Her hands shook as she held the card out toward him. "This was you, wasn't it?" she whispered. No answer. But Daniel stepped forward, slowly, and sat across from her. He looked at the badge for a long time. Then, a sound came from his throat. A quiet, broken groan, full of something that sounded like pain. Emma gasped. The next day they walked farther north. A storm followed behind them. Emma felt something change inside her. The fear that once lived in her chest had turned into curiosity, maybe even care. Daniel wasn't just a body that refused to die. He was a man who never fully gave up. They found shelter in an abandoned bus, half buried in a ditch. While Emma searched the seats, she found something else, a journal. It had been partly burned, but a few pages survived. The name on the front, Dr. Daniel Reeve. She turned the pages slowly. Day 3 of the outbreak. My team failed. The cure mutated. I injected myself with the test serum before the building collapsed. If I change, if I lose myself, I must remember, protect the innocent. Emma stopped reading. She couldn't breathe. She looked at the creature resting in the corner of the bus. He was no longer just a zombie. He was a promise in flesh. A broken protector who still obeyed his final thoughts, even as the virus chewed his body away. That night, Emma didn't make a fire. She sat in the dark with Daniel beside her. "Your brain's still in there. Somewhere, isn't it?" she whispered. Daniel didn't answer, but he slowly leaned his head against the cold bus wall, like a man who wanted to sleep but couldn't dream. The next morning, disaster struck. They were walking through a narrow street when a building collapsed. Behind them, Emma screamed, caught under rubble and twisted pipes. Daniel rushed back. He didn't stop for falling bricks or burning wood. He grabbed the pipe, crushing her leg, and lifted. Emma cried in pain. Her body was shaking, her vision blurry. She looked up and saw Daniel's face, half-burned, jaw hanging loose, but his eyes were full of fear. Not for himself, for her. He pulled her free, carried her to safety, and laid her down gently behind a dumpster. Then, he collapsed. Emma cried out, crawling toward him. "Daniel!" He didn't move. His chest barely rose. His hands, broken and bloodied, twitched once, then fell still. Emma held his hand tightly, even as the sky above her turned dark with smoke. She refused to let go. Maybe he was dying. Maybe this was the end of his fight. But as the wind howled around her and the ruins trembled, Emma made a promise. If he protected her through death, then she would protect him through life. The wind screamed across the broken streets like a dying animal. Emma sat in the dust, arms wrapped around Daniel's body. He didn't move. His skin, once pale with rot, now looked gray and dry like ash. One arm had deep cuts. Part of his chest had caved in from the building collapse. But Emma didn't cry. Her tears had dried hours ago. She just stared at his still form. The zombie who had protected her might finally be gone. The sky grew dark with clouds. Emma didn't care. She didn't move when it started to rain. Cold drops ran down her face. Thunder growled overhead like a warning. "Please," she whispered, her voice raw. "Don't leave. Me too." She held his limp hand tightly. His fingers didn't twitch. His chest didn't rise. Later, she found an old storage room in a half-buried building nearby. She dragged Daniel's body inside using all her strength. She placed him on a torn mattress, covered him with her red raincoat, and sat beside him. For 2 days, she stayed. No food, no fire, just silence. She watched the rise and fall of her own breath, but his chest never moved again. On the 3rd night, something strange happened. A loud crash came from outside. Emma peeked through a crack in the boarded window. A wild dog was sniffing the ruins, snarling. Behind it, 2 infected creatures walked. Stiffly, their necks twisted, eyes glowing white. Emma grabbed her pipe. She turned toward Daniel's still body and whispered, "I'll protect you now." She stepped outside, ready to fight, but she didn't have to, because from the darkness, a low, deep growl rose behind her. Emma froze. She turned slowly and saw him. Daniel. Standing, his back was bent, his arms trembled, but he was on his feet. He had woken. The dog barked once, then ran. The infected zombies turned toward Emma, but Daniel stepped between them and her, like always. He didn't roar, he didn't scream, he just charged. His movements were wild, painful, like a creature fighting. Against broken bones, but his strength was real. He knocked one infected against the wall. The other tried to bite, but Daniel caught it midair and slammed it to the ground. Black blood splashed the walls. Emma stared in shock. Daniel was still protecting her, even after death had claimed him once. When the fight ended, Daniel fell to his knees. Emma rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his broken chest. His skin was cold but not lifeless. His eyes opened slowly. One green, one white. "Daniel," she whispered, "you came back?" He didn't speak, but his head rested on her shoulder, heavy and still. And in that moment, Emma felt it. A bond stronger than fear. That night, she cleaned his wounds with rainwater and tied scraps of cloth around his arm she wrapped his ribs. She said softly, "You were never fully gone, were you?" Daniel didn't reply, but as she finished, he reached one shaking finger and touched her face. Just once. A broken hand, a quiet gesture, but enough to make her believe. The next morning, Emma decided something bold. "If I can find what you were working on before the world ended," she said, "maybe I can help you." Daniel tilted his head. She showed him the old ID card again. "Titan Gene Labs, that's where you worked, that's where we'll go." She pointed north across the ruined cities and forests. Daniel stood beside her, like a silent knight ready for war. Together, they walked into the gray dawn, a starving zombie and a lonely girl, on a journey neither of them fully understood. But, for the first time since the apocalypse began, Emma no longer felt alone. Smoke rose behind them. Emma and Daniel had been walking for hours, heading north through the ruins of a burned city. The sky was dark with ash. Black birds circled above broken towers. Emma's red raincoat was torn at the edge, and Daniel's movements had slowed. Each step looked heavier than the last. But still he followed her. He always did, even now, when half of his face was burnt and one of his arms hung uselessly by his side. He walked. She whispered, "You're more than just a monster, Daniel, you're a soldier." They reached an old industrial zone. Emma spotted smoke coming from one building. Fresh smoke. Someone was inside. She crouched low and whispered, "We'll check it out. But if it's people, we stay hidden. Understand?" Daniel blinked slowly. They moved close, and Emma peered through a broken window. She saw a camp, makeshift beds, stolen supplies, weapons, and people. Not survivors. A gang. Rough men with guns and cruel eyes. They laughed as one of them tossed a pack of baby clothes into the fire. Another stirred a pot over a barrel of flames. Then Emma heard it, a woman crying. She turned to Daniel. They couldn't just leave. But before she could plan anything, A hand grabbed her from behind. She struggled, kicked, screamed, but a second man appeared. They dragged her inside the building. Her bag hit the ground, her pipe rolled away. "She's clean," one of them said. "Strong too," a third man grinned. "She'll fetch a good trade." Emma spat at him. He raised a hand, but stopped when a horrible sound filled the air. Growl. Deep. Inhuman. "Daniel." The gang members froze. One whispered, "What was that?" Another shouted, "Check the windows." Too late. Daniel smashed through the side wall like a beast set free. He moved fast, unnatural. One arm swung like a hammer, sending a man crashing into a metal shelf. The fire lit his face, half-burnt, bleeding, glowing with rage. One gang member shot him in the chest. Daniel didn't even flinch. He threw himself at the shooter, slammed him into the floor, and tore the gun from his hand. Men screamed. One tried to run. Daniel tackled him into a pile of crates. Emma scrambled free. She grabbed her pipe and shouted, "Daniel!" He turned toward her. Blood soaked his clothes. Wounds covered his skin. But his eyes still had her in them. The last gang member grabbed a firebomb. He shouted, "I'll burn you both." He threw it at Daniel. It hit. Flames exploded across Daniel's body. Emma screamed. But Daniel didn't fall. He walked through the fire. His coat burned. His skin melted, but he didn't stop. He grabbed the attacker and slammed him into the wall so hard the bricks cracked. Then silence. The fight was over. Emma ran to him. He was on his knees. Smoke rose from his back. His body shook. "Daniel. Daniel." She poured water from her bottle over the flames on his arm. He didn't speak, but he looked at her. His lips parted. A sound came out, not a growl, not a moan, but a whisper. Emma." She froze. Her heart skipped. "You said my name." He nodded slowly, weakly. She cried, holding him close. He wasn't just remembering. He was returning, one word at a time. They stayed the night in the gang's old shelter. Emma used clean bandages and painkillers from the gang's stash. She wrapped his burns, gave him water, and even found an old hoodie to cover his ruined body. In the dark, she whispered, "You walked through fire. For me." Daniel, now silent again, leaned against the wall, and yet his hand reached for hers. He was changing, and so was she. The next morning, the wind was cold, but Emma's chest burned with new hope. Daniel had whispered her name, just once, but that one word changed everything. He wasn't just protecting her, he was fighting to return. They left the gang shelter with new supplies. Emma had a flashlight now, real food, and a paper map she found in a drawer. It showed a place she had only heard rumors about. Titan Gene Research Facility, Site 4. It was hidden deep in the forest, built before the world collapsed. The same name, on Daniel's ID badge. The place where this all started. She showed Daniel the map. "This is where we'll find answers," she said. "This is where you became like this." Daniel looked at the map, then at her, and nodded. They walked through thick trees for 2 days. Daniel moved slower now. His wounds were worse. Parts of him were rotting again. The fire had done damage. No cloth could fix. But he didn't complain. He never did. Emma kept speaking to him as they walked, telling him stories, asking him questions. Sometimes, she thought he understood. On the 3rd day, they reached the edge of the hidden lab. It was underground, half buried under vines, dirt, and time. A metal door stood against a mossy hill. Red warning lights blinked faintly. The power was still alive. Emma found a keypad. It was broken, but next to it was a fingerprint scanner. She looked at Daniel. "Think you still have a working finger?" He placed his burned hand on the scanner. It beeped once, then green light. Access granted. They walked inside slowly. Cold air rushed out of the metal hallway. Old lights flickered above them. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. This place had been abandoned in a hurry. Glass beakers still sat on tables. Computers were open. Chairs were knocked over. Emma found a sealed door labeled Test Subject. Vault, Level 3. She looked at Daniel. This is where they kept you, isn't it? Inside, they found rows of locked glass chambers. Most were empty. One still had bones inside. Emma stepped carefully over wires and read the files stored in a dusty cabinet. Each folder had numbers. And photos. Some were marked with red stamps. Failed, full infection. Failed, subject lost control. Partial success, subject DR shows cognitive resistance. She stared at that one. Subject DR Daniel Reeve. Inside the folder was a short paragraph. Subject Reeve received experimental antivirus serum moments before full cellular collapse. Results: partial mental resistance. Subject maintains protective instincts and flashes of identity. Recommend further study. Emma sat down, hands shaking. They had tried to cure him. He was the only one who fought the virus. That's why he never ate her. That's why he remembered her name. That's why he protected her every time. He was still Daniel inside, and he was dying. She turned to the computers. One still worked. On the screen was a blinking line. Serum V, test formula, in. Storage locker B. Emma's breath caught. A chance, a real cure. She rushed to locker B and opened it. Inside, 3 vials of blue liquid, sealed and cold. She took one and read the instructions scratched on the lid. Inject directly into brainstem. Warning, high. Risk, heart may stop. She looked at Daniel. He sat near the wall, barely upright. His breath came slow and rough. One eye was white now. His chest wheezed. He didn't have much time left. Emma held the vial and needle in her hand. She knelt beside him. Daniel, she whispered, this might bring you back. He blinked. No fear, just trust. He tilted his head, exposing his neck, offering her a place to inject. Emma's hands shook. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, please come back. Then she injected the serum. Daniel's body jolted, his arms spasmed, his mouth opened in a silent scream. Emma screamed too, trying to hold him still as his body thrashed. Then, stillness. Silence. Daniel's eyes closed. His chest stopped moving. His hand fell away from hers. No. Please no. Emma sobbed. She had lost him. This time for real. But then, his fingers twitched. His breath returned. His eyes slowly opened. Green. Clear. Alive. The lab was quiet. So quiet Emma could hear her own heartbeat. She sat on the cold floor holding Daniel's hand, watching for a sign. Any sign. His chest had stopped rising minutes ago. The serum had shocked his body, twisted it, burned it, and now it looked like it had killed him. No. Emma's voice broke. You were coming back. I saw it. You said my name. She leaned over his still body, forehead pressed against his shoulder. I wasn't supposed to lose you. The lab lights buzzed above her. Water dripped from a cracked pipe. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled across the sky. But inside, only silence. Then, a sound. A slow, shaky inhale. Emma froze. She lifted her head. Daniel's chest rose, just slightly. Then again. Stronger. Then, his fingers twitched in her hand. She gasped, eyes wide. His head turned slowly. His lips parted. Emma. This time, his voice was clearer. More human. She grabbed his face. Daniel, you're here? He blinked. His eyes were green. Fully green. He looked at her like a man waking from a long, terrible dream. Where am I? He whispered. Tears spilled from her eyes. She laughed and cried at once. You're back. Emma helped him sit up. He moved like someone learning to feel again. His fingers touched the floor, touched his own arms, skin still damaged, but no longer gray. His face, once twisted by the virus, now showed pain but also peace. I was in the dark, he said slowly. Like drowning. I could hear you. But I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Emma nodded. You fought it. All this time. You fought the virus. Daniel gave her a faint smile. You pulled me back. For the next hour, Emma helped him walk around the lab. His legs were weak, his body sore, but he could walk. He was human again. Not perfect, but whole. They found clean clothes in a locker, an old uniform jacket and pants. Emma helped him change, and when he looked in the mirror, he touched his own face like he didn't believe it. I thought I was gone forever. You almost were, Emma whispered. But you stayed. She smiled. You protected me through everything. How could I leave you behind? That evening, they found a working radio deep in the control room. Emma twisted the dial until it crackled. A voice came through, broken, but clear. Repeat. Haven outpost is open. Survivors welcome. Safe zone confirmed. Coordinates follow. Emma looked at Daniel. He nodded. They had a destination, a future. The journey took 6 days. They crossed burned highways, ghost towns, and forests filled with dead things. But Emma had Daniel now. Not a zombie, not a monster. A man. She watched as he relearned things. How to smile. How to laugh at her bad jokes. How to eat soup without shaking. But at night, sometimes he cried. Not loudly. Just soft tears. Quiet. Pain. She would hold his hand and say, You're safe now. And he would whisper back, Because of you. On the 7th morning, they reached the gates. Haven outpost. High walls. Guards with real weapons. People, actual people, moving around. Inside, Emma stepped forward. A guard raised a hand. Stop. Name? She pointed at herself. Emma Carson. Then at him. Daniel Reeve. The guard stared at Daniel's face. Wait, the doctor? From Titan Gene? Daniel blinked. Yes. I was. A moment passed, then the gate opened. Let them in. Inside was like another world. Children played. Smoke from real food filled the air. Medicine, clothes, beds. Safety. A woman in a lab coat rushed over. Dr. Reeve, we thought you were dead. Daniel shook his head. I was, almost. The woman's hands trembled. You fought it? He nodded. I survived. With help. He looked at Emma. The woman said, If we study your blood, we might cure others. Emma held his hand tightly. Daniel said, Then let's do. Weeks passed. Daniel was tested every day. Blood samples, scans, questions. Emma stayed beside him through it all. The other survivors whispered about them. About the girl and the zombie who saved her. Some were afraid. Some were amazed. But no one touched them. They had become a story of their own. A story of hope. One evening under the soft light of the outpost tower, Daniel sat beside Emma, watching the stars. I don't know what I am anymore, he said. Not fully human, not fully monster. Emma rested her head on his shoulder. You're just you, and that's enough. He turned to her. You saved me. She smiled. You saved me first. He leaned forward, slowly. Their lips touched, gently. No fire, no fear. Just two survivors finding warmth in the cold. In the days that followed, the cure created from Daniel's blood saved others. One by one, infected people woke up from the dark. Just like he had. Not all survived, but some did. And in a world that had forgotten what hope looked like, Daniel and Emma reminded them they were no longer alone, and the monster who once walked through fire was now a man who lit the path for others.